Welcome to Behind the Cusp, a podcast diving deep into the layers of self-growth, inner work, and transformation. I'm your host, Marissa Mead, and after 15 years as a digital creator, I'm sharing my raw, unfiltered journey of healing and self-discovery to walk alongside you in yours. Together, we'll dive deep into the conversations that matter most, uncovering what it means to truly evolve from the inside out. This is where you elevate into transformation. So take a breath, settle in, and let's begin. Well, here we are, back from Maine, and it feels like we never left. To be honest, the trip went so fast this year. It was amazing as always. Definitely a little bit different with just some different family dynamics and things going on. You know, my grandparents were not there, and that was definitely an adjustment and just different. I have never been in Maine without my grandparents in my 35 years of life, and so their presence was definitely missed. Without going into too much detail, my grandfather's not able to travel, and so my grandmother only went up for like a week or something this summer because she's home with him. Obviously, they're not going to be apart for that long. So just being at their house and staying there and not seeing my grandmother sitting at the front table, drinking her coffee, you know, doing her readings in the morning when I came down, it was just different. Always amazing to create new memories though. Like my boyfriend got to come for the first time and we had an amazing time. He loved it. He was not ready to leave. It was his first time in Maine. And so being a born and raised Florida boy, I guess you could say, and then going to down East Maine, he's basically from the furthest point south you can possibly live on the East Coast besides like Miami, which is really just on the east coast of Florida compared to the west coast where Naples is, and then going all the way up to the north corner of, you know, the US. Couldn't be more polar opposite, but he had an amazing time and loved it, and he just gets along with my family so well and integrates into a large family, which can definitely be overwhelming. Even for me, being in it for my entire life, I still get overwhelmed. But he just handles it with such grace and had such an amazing time. And we didn't want to come home. I usually end up staying in Maine for like 2 weeks or so, but with his work schedule, we had to come home early, and so I feel like I'm missing that last few days of unwinding that I usually get in Maine. And to be honest, that was a little bit of an adjustment. I have definitely been struggling the last couple days. Oh, okay, deep breath. I just feel really overwhelmed right now in life, if I'm being honest, juggling some big decisions and living in two places, which I'm not complaining about that at all. Like, I know it's a blessing to be able to do, but I think when you're in the midst of transition, even a good thing can feel really heavy when you're in the midst of a transition with it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I was on vacation and kind of disconnected, but just kind of coming home to like the looming things that were all over and the maintenance of 2 homes and taking care of that and like so many little things to do on top of work and launching a new project like this podcast and just a lot of other things that I don't even really need to get into. But let's just say there's just a lot on my plate right now. And so I felt a little bit overwhelmed that's an understatement. A lot. Overwhelmed the last couple of days. I also wasn't feeling the best. There is just something in the air right now. There's a couple people I've chatted with have just been like, yeah, I am going through it, like in the thick of it. Just energetically, we had Mercury in retrograde ending. There was a full moon this weekend, and Lionsgate portal was on Friday. So just energetically, what we are experiencing right now as a collective is a lot. And then just add in all of the other things that you may have in your life and family and on your plate and dynamics of all of those things put in one. It's, you know, just an intense time, I guess you could say. So I've just kind of been going through it the last couple days, but I have been preparing all morning to sit down and record, which honestly, once I get behind this mic, I just feel like I'm in my happy place, like this place that I know I'm called to be in and I love being in, if you will, right now. And creating this podcast has brought so much joy. I love the connection that it's bringing with so many of you, especially those of you who have been connected like with me, for example, for a really long time, whether you've been a long time follower or friend or whatever. I just love connecting deeper with you guys and hearing your story and how the podcast is impacting you and all of that. I've started out the podcast so far with a lot of solo episodes to really establish my background and story so that especially if you're newer, that you have a foundation. And I'm really excited to expand as we head into the fall and bring guests on and dive into a lot of different topics and hear from other people and their life and transformations and own stories and navigating through the different times in life and what that looks like and how there's really not a lot of things that are linear, even though our society makes it seem that way, you know? So I'm excited for what's to come and just reminding myself of all the good things that are happening, even in the midst of a lot of transition and change and big decisions kind of coming up in my life right now. So anyway, I wanted to kind of start the episode off and just give a pulse check before we dive into today's topic, which is going to be one that relates to all of us, no matter where we're at in life, no matter how old we are, no matter what stage we're in, no matter where we live. And this is choosing our circle with intention. This is something that has been largely impactful for me, especially in the last year, I would say. And I find myself having a lot of conversations with friends right now about this topic. And so I wanted to bring it here to the mic and talk about it and open up this can of worms, if you will, about our friends and our circle that we have around us. Maybe that even extends into our family and our work life and all of, you know, the more deeper places that we have people in our circle. And so without further ado, let's dive right in. So let me just start with this statement to kind of set the tone for this episode about choosing our circle, choosing our friends with intention. The people that we surround ourselves with shape everything from our energy and our attitude and our mindset to our evolution and our growth and our trajectory in life. The people in your life are either expanding you or draining you. And most of the time you can feel it and you're aware of it, even if you don't want to. There is a certain energy or air or vibe, whatever word you want to call it, that you carry when you've been around. There's a certain energy or glow or even confidence that you carry when you've been around people who truly see you for who you are, who support you and what you're doing and what you're creating, and who want to see you rise. And there's an entirely different energy and almost dimming that you carry when you've been around people who leave you second-guessing yourself, second-guessing who you are, dimming your light, or shrinking to stay safe or make them feel good. I know we've all been in these two situations, and you're probably immediately being transported to a conversation or a friend or a dynamic or a time in your life when you felt one of these things, whether it was the good or the bad. We often underestimate just how much of our mental, physical, emotional energy is shaped by the people that we allow into our inner world. And it's not just about the years of shared history or the proximity of this person in your life or how maybe your parents were connected or what your story looks like or how many memories you've had together. It's truly about the impact that these people have on your nervous system, your thoughts, your self-worth, your goals, your mindset, and where you are at in life. So before we dive deep into this episode, I want to invite you to ask yourself a really honest question. Who do I become around the people that I spend the most time with? And this is not who you pretend to be, not who these people expect you to be, but who you feel like in your body and soul when you are around them. Are you more confident? Or are you more insecure? Are you more alive? Or are you more exhausted? Are you more yourself? Or are you less yourself? Think about who you become. And this is where the real work begins. It's not in fixing other people, changing other people around you, or pointing the finger outward, but it's in becoming aware of the environment that we are living in and choosing to live in every day. So let's talk about why our circle matters so much. Number one, your energy, our energy, who we are, our personality, our, the energetic exchange that happens when you're with other people, that is contagious. And so the people that you are around affect your thoughts, your decisions, your self-worth, your goals, your growth, etc. Your energy, whether you realize it or not, is contagious, and everything around you is shaping the way that you think, you feel, and how you show up in the world. It's really easy to believe that we are totally unaffected, as if we are immune to other people, their baggage, their projections, their patterns, their energy, fill in the blank. The truth is, though, is your circle, the people that are around you, become your mirror. Their mindset starts to influence your decisions. Their habits will start to rub off on you. Their language, if they're complaining and, just negative overall, that becomes part of your inner dialogue. The things that you are saying in your head to yourself, or about other people or the world around you or anything. Like I said before, it's not just about who's been there the longest or who's been in your life or even like your family or who's nice. It's not just about the shared memories or laughs or how long you've known someone. And I think a lot of times we kind of give that excuse, if you will, of like, oh, I've been friends with this person for so long, so I'm just friends with them. But sometimes we have to acknowledge when we've outgrown a certain friendship or a certain container of friendship, or we're no longer aligned in value or mindset or goals or lifestyle. Your circle should be about having shared value, aligned mindset, aligned energy, and whether you both or you as a collective group are committed to becoming the fullest, most authentic version of yourself. Your friendships are not something that's just emotional. Of course, we have emotional connection, and that's what kind of develops a connection with another human, is when you have emotional things that tie you together. Maybe you have opened up and been vulnerable about something in your life that you're currently going through, or you went through in the past, or you have a shared, common ground of history in your family, or maybe you have shared interests like health and wellness, or this is the person you met at your gym, like whatever it is. There's an emotional bond that's created within your friendship. But friendships are not just emotional, they're also energetic, and there's an energetic exchange that happens when you are with another human being. This person or persons ultimately shapes your self-worth, your confidence, your perspective, your mindset, and everything therein on what's possible in your life and the trajectory and path of your life. Let me say this and hear this so clearly. The people that you surround yourself with either waters your growth or crowds your light. And with that being said, think about the people that you have in your life right now that you feel are watering your growth, that you feel are pouring into you, that you feel an energetic lifting when you are around. And then think about the people that you feel exhausted after being with, like who you are is being dimmed, or even the way that you want to live your life right now feels crowded with all of their negativity. If you spend time with people who operate constantly in fear, who are always complaining, who even belittle their own dreams or have no self-confidence or are constantly being faced with the same issue in life over and over and over, that energy, that output becomes the norm. And it's rubbing off onto you. But on the flip side of that, if you spend time with people who are self-aware, who are curious, who are growing, who are more grounded, who are working on becoming the best version of themselves, who have the same interests as you as far as bettering their life or moving the needle forward or growing in any way, shape, or form, being healthy, being active, that also becomes contagious and rubs off on you. Who we are is shaped often in quiet, subtle ways. And usually it's by the people that are closest to us. It's not through these big dramatic moments, but it's in those conversations we have, in the little text exchanges that we have, in what they're sending to you on Instagram in a meme or DM, in the stories that you tell each other, and the spaces that you feel safe being in. You may not really notice it per se in the moment, but over time, your environment and especially your relationships start to shape how you think, how you speak to yourself, how you move through your day, how you even view other people, what you're saying when you're driving down the road, what you react to, or how you react to things that happen out and about or with your spouse or your partner or your boyfriend or whatever, and your mindset and what you believe is possible for your life and what you believe you can do or accomplish, or maybe how you want to pivot or expand or do something new. All of these things are impacted not just by what you are bringing to your life, but the people around you. And when you surround yourself with people who are moving forward, who are growing in their life, who are not the same that they were 5 years ago, then you are expanding what is possible for you. And that is why your circle matters so much. It's not about being popular. It's not about being in close proximity to the coolest this or that. It's not about living in the best city ever. It's about the energetic exchange that's happening. It's about having people in your life who reflect your values, your mindset, your mission, and not just your past. Let's also take a pause here and note that and acknowledge that sometimes we have people in our life for a season, and once we go through or grow through that season, we outgrow those people, or not even outgrow them in a way that like we're better than them, but we've gone and split on different directions of the branch. You follow me? So you have this tree, it's growing, it's beautiful, and it has all these branches coming off. And in one time of life, you and a certain person go off on your one branch. But whenever you look at a branch, there's also another split that happens. And sometimes when you grow all the way out to the end of that branch and that certain season of life, then there's another split that happens. It doesn't mean the tree isn't growing anymore. It doesn't mean that it's not flowering or flourishing. It just means it's going in a different direction. And the connection of that branch has served its purpose in that season, and now it's time to go break off and do another whole phase or cycle of growth. And so just because we've moved on from a certain friend or friendship or circle or place or space in our life doesn't mean that it was bad or not, meant to be there, or not encouraging us or growing us in our life at that point. But sometimes it's just done. And sometimes that sucks. But also sometimes it's the best thing for us. And so when we look at friendship that way, we can almost look at it as a seed that's being planted and growing and thriving and maybe branching off in a different direction. Friendship is more than just companionship and connectedness. It's an energetic soil for our growth. Soil nourishes the plant. It helps grow the plant. It gives it a place for the roots to take place and go deeper and get stronger. And when you think of friendship that way, and you kind of audit your friendships in your life, are your people doing what the soil is doing? Is your circle doing what the soil is doing? Is it nourishing you? Is it making you stronger? Is it bettering you? Is it breathing life into you? That's literally what soil does. Is it watering you, challenging you, holding you down, grounding you in your truth, giving you a place to do that? The soil is where the roots are, where we can go deeper and grow deeper and wider and bigger into who we are. Or are your friendships and your containers and your circle that you're in keeping you in a version of yourself that you've already outgrown? Think of it like a pot. A friend of mine that lives in my development in Florida has been taking care of our plants for the last couple of weeks while my boyfriend was up here in Maine. And she just sent me a bunch of pictures of the plants this morning. And they're thriving and beautiful and amazing. And 2 of them need to be repotted because they've totally outgrown the pot. And I'm like so excited because, I'm seeing like new blooms on my desert rose, and whoever thought that I would be all this into plants, because I've never been able to keep a plant alive in my life, but now I am. And she's helping. So anyway, but the analogy that I wanted to make here is the pot that 2 of these plants are in, they are like just as big as the pot. So clearly we need to like replant them and repot them, which we are going to do. But think of your friendships as that container. You are this tiny little plant and you're put in this big pot and you water it and you grow it and you grow it and you grow it. And then it starts to be, okay, we need to repot this, or it needs to go into a new pot. But if you don't do that, then you're going to stay in something and be this smashed down, not full-blown, blooming, amazing, beautiful version of you that you could be, because you're staying in something that you've outgrown. So you get to choose the containers of friendship that you are in. You get to be intentional with who has access to you. And that's not from a place of, ego where it's like, I'm better than this and I'm da-da-da. But it's a place of self-respect. It's a place of knowing your worth. It's a place of aligning yourself with people who are in alignment with you and allowing yourself to release the things that are no longer contributing to your best and highest self. Let's also remember that in order to have good friends, we also must be a good friend. There's a reciprocal exchange that happens in friendship that should be a give and a take. You're pouring into someone and they're pouring into you, and you support them and they support you and they're there for you. Of course, there's times in our life too when like the balance may be a little bit off. You're going through a harder time in life, or you don't have as much to give or pour out, or show up for people and they're being there for you. But then that when the situation or the roles are reversed, that you are going to be there for them just as much as they were there for you. That's a reciprocal exchange. The reciprocal exchange is a topic that I really want to dive deeply into, because this has been something that I have really experienced a lot in the last year and has been a strong theme within my friendships, specifically in the last year. And something that I've talked with so many people, so many other friends and women and stuff about, like reciprocal exchange in friendships. And so I'm not going to dive deep into that whole thing today. That's probably going to be another whole episode. But because right now we're talking more about like crafting the circle with intention. So, but keep that in mind and keep it on your docket of things to look forward to in some upcoming episodes. So let's kind of reel it back in. You need to be intentional about who you let into your space because that is shaping your future. Kind of echoing on what I just said about my friendships being reciprocal and everything in the last year, I have been super intentional and aware, I guess is the right word, of my circle the last year. I came off this really wild, crazy ride of like health things and didn't have anything to really give to anyone at that point. Emotionally, mentally, energetically, obviously physically, like I was tapped on every angle and truly just needed of people around me. And number one, let me tell you that I definitely saw and realized, when I was at my lowest, who really is there for me. Number one, that's always interesting when you're going through something like that, who shows up and in your life. But that whole experience as a whole kind of gave me this window of insight into how I wanted to approach my friendships and also really condensed my friendships down. I didn't have time for like all the bullshit stuff. Like, let's just be real. The small talky stuff, the more surface level friendships. And let me kind of back this up and say, I've never been somebody who has surface level friendships. Anyone who is a friend of mine knows that I go deep, very deep. If that wasn't already obvious through me creating a very deep podcast. But I'm not someone who has like surface level stuff. So I kind of craft my circle to be smaller purposely because I value the depth of relationship. And this has always been a theme for me. I've never had a massive group of friends. I've always had different people or different connections of friendship within different places of my life that pour into me and that I can pour into reciprocally in different ways. And so, I have like a few close influencer friends. I have a few close friends in Connecticut. I have a few close friends in Florida. Like I kind of have these containers where I have my friends, and that's, what I've crafted. But the last year, like year and a half or whatever, when I went through everything on my back, it really kind of gave me this perspective of like how precious time is and how valuable our time is and where do I want to spend my time. And I knew that it was with people and on people that I knew valued a friendship, and not just friendship, but the same things that I did in the same way. If I also had like a text relationship with someone who was never willing to put in the time or effort to build a connection outside of that, it was something that I was just like, I don't have the capacity for this, and had to move away from certain friendships or certain containers that I just didn't feel were filling my cup or even going in the same direction as I was. That really was with people that I had in my life for a long time, people that I'm related to. Like I didn't really have, something that like was an excuse for keeping quote unquote someone in my life. And not that I just went and like cut all these people out in like an unhealthy way, but I just allowed kind of the evolution of the friendship to fizzle because I knew it already was going to. And this is something that I've done over the course of my life many, many times. Actually, there's a few instances where I had to remove myself very drastically from friendships, but that was because of drastic things that happened. But that's also something that's for another episode. Basically, what I looked at my friendships and containers of where I was spending my time and the people that I was investing my time in, and also how they were impacting me. What is the topic of conversation when I'm constantly talking to this person? Is it all of the problems and complaining and drama and traumatic experiences and stuff like that? Or is there anything that's ever talking about moving forward and growth and goals and, where are they headed in life? Because I knew that I was coming up on a time in my life where things were expanding, things were growing rapidly, a time when I wanted to call in massive, monumental growth things in my life, and knew that the people that I had in my life needed to be people that were already aligned with that energy as well. Because if I was operating at, say, a level 75 and someone is vibrating down at a 25, it was not something that could push me forward. And I had to remove myself from those containers. They weren't aligned with me in that season, in this season of my life. And when I did that, and when you do that, the contrast that you feel being in a circle of people that is nourishing and expansive and safe to your nervous system and encouraging and expanding you, they allow you to evolve in a deeper and greater and more expansive way than you ever could have imagined. I also have put out there a desire for a certain type of friendships, ones that are aligned with my lifestyle and the things that I focus on. I don't go out and go to the bars and party. I've never been that girl. Even like in my early 20s and stuff, I was building my businesses. I was working my buttski off. And so like I've never been that type of person. People that were doing that were not people that I was hanging around with. You have to align yourself with the type of people that are going in a direction that you want to go. And also put yourself in places and spaces where you're not the smartest person in the room or the smartest person at the table. That was something that I felt was kind of a struggle for me in the past, where I was always the one offering the support or the advice or the growth or the business stuff or that. And there's always a time and a place for that. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying that if you are pouring out in certain capacities, make sure you are also equally being poured into in those same capacities. And it doesn't need to be by the same person, because chances are, if you are pouring into someone from a business perspective and helping them and helping them grow or giving them insight or whatever, and I'm using business as an example because it's like an easy one, then also on the flip side of that, you probably have a mentor or business person or something that is pouring into you to learn and grow and move your business in a new direction, So just because you're pouring into one person doesn't mean that the reciprocal exchange of pouring into will necessarily come from there. So how did I even get off on that whole tangent? Okay, so my friendships, essentially what I'm saying, have evolved so much in the last year, but it's because I did. And as I evolved, I was attracting and pulling different people into me that were very aligned with me right now. And I have to say, I'm 35, and right now, the people that I have in my life, the people that I talk to on a daily basis, the people that are surrounding me and encouraging me and excited for me and all these things, are the best people and best circle I have had in my life up to now. But this has so much to do with what I did to get to this place. These people didn't just drop into my life out of nowhere. These people didn't just drop into my life out of nowhere. This was deep work that I did in myself and on myself to then be able to align myself and call in the people that I now have in my life. And I love my friends. I love my friends. I love the time that we spend together. I love that we're all working on being the best version of ourselves and going through and growing through so much. And it's not just new friends, it's also people that I've had in my life for a very long time. And I love seeing their growth and cheering them on and new things and new places and spaces that they're going to in their life. And it's really just such a beautiful thing. And on the flip side of that, I've also had to normalize and accept the outgrowing of other people that, used to be in my life or that I knew in the past or were a big part of my life in a different season, whether that is high school or college or my 20s or even my early 30s. All these different times of life bring different people into our life, but normalize outgrowing people in your life without guilt and lovingly move forward. Like, you can quite literally send them love through the waves in the universe. You can send them love and still love them from a distance and still see them once a year at whatever event you go to or whatever. And you can still have a connection with somebody without really integrating them into your close circle of your life. So I just mentioned a little bit about how the circle and people that I have in my life right now are just the best ever. And to that point, I want to share a little bit about what healthy and aligned friendship looks like, because maybe you are out there and you are like, I want that, I need that, I'm looking for that. How can I find it? How can I call that into my life? Where do I attract these kind of people, etc.? I'm going to give you 5 things that are what healthy and aligned friendship looks and even feels like. Number 1, you feel seen and safe. And by that, I mean in conversation, in the time that you spend together, etc., not judged or drained. So take a look at how you feel when you leave being with somebody. When you go out to lunch with that girlfriend, when you go grab coffee with so-and-so, when you take a walk with, somebody you haven't seen in 3 months, when you are getting your kids together for a play date, when you are meeting up with the old college girlfriends, how do you feel when you leave that interaction? Do you feel seen and safe, or do you feel judged and drained? Do you feel like you have an emotional hangover? Do you feel like you have to go home and stare at the wall for 45 minutes? Identify how you are feeling when you leave. Number 2, you are inspired to grow. And this can be in so many different ways. Grow in your health, grow in your relationship or your marriage, grow in your role as a mom or in your career, or maybe you're growing a new business, maybe you're growing a side hustle, maybe you are growing in your confidence. Like, it can be growth in so many different ways. Are you inspired to grow in whatever friendship it is? And to this point, different friendships will inspire you in different ways. I personally do not believe in having one friend that does it all. If you have a friend that is like that, then you have a 1 in a jillion unicorn. But I have many different friends in my life, all who encourage me and support me, and I encourage and support them in different ways, and we contribute to one another's growth or support in varying ways. I can literally think of 5 people off the top of my head right now that I'm like, okay, this person is like my, wellness person, whatever. I can think of another girlfriend that I want to talk fashion stuff and current this and that and what we're ordering from Abercrombie and Aloe. I know exactly who I'm texting. There's different people that are going to support our growth or inspire us in different ways in different containers. And ultimately, whatever person that you are friends with should be doing that in at least one way. Not dimming your light, not playing small, not encouraging you to just stay where you're at in whatever way it is. Number 3, there's mutual support, honesty, and space in the friendship. Okay, these 3 are so important. Number 1, there's mutual support. You need to be supported by the people that you are friends with in whatever you are doing, and you supporting them in whatever way, shape, or form, whatever they are doing. You guys, I literally have friends in my life who don't support anything that I do in my job. They don't like my stuff, they don't comment on my stuff, they don't share, whatever. Those are all free ways to support what I do as a creator, influencer, whatever you want to dub it as. If they're not doing the bare minimum of that, I have literally come to the conclusion that they are not my friend. How do you not support me in the most basic possible ways? And what's interesting is the people that are more newly in my life almost support me better in those ways than the people that I have had in my life for a really long time. That's something that I've noticed in the last, I would say, 6 months. I've become hyper aware of. I'm like, who is really supporting like what I'm doing, especially with this podcast and this new venture and putting myself out here in a whole new way? Who is supporting that? It's really interesting to see. I'll just leave it at that. But find people that support you. Number 2, honesty. There's mutual support, honesty. Honesty, you guys. If you can't have honesty in a friendship, and I'm not just talking about like somebody being like, oh yeah, I'm not talking about a little white lie about something stupid. I'm talking about, hey, you know what? What you said last week really bothered me or really hurt my feelings. Or I have to be honest with you about blah, blah, blah. Or having a open, honest relationship to be real with each other and also able to call one another out. My friends know I am very direct, maybe even to a fault sometimes, but I tell it like it is and I will call things out. I'll be real with people and just be like, the relationship you're in is not good for you. Or you should give yourself some rest, or you should give yourself some grace, or it's time to get your act together and get moving in life. I will be very direct and honest with my friends. They know that. And that is just a quality, I guess, that I have. But I also kind of expect the same thing back in my friendships, and we should. We should have that honesty and openness in our friendships. And then also the space. And this doesn't mean obligation. You should never feel obligated to do or be a certain thing in a friendship, but have the space to exist and be yourself and space to work through something or whatever it may be. Number 4, you can show up as your full self even in your messy moments. I think this is huge, especially as you start navigating deeper things into adulthood and when you're talking about getting marriages and kids and all of that in the mix down the line, or maybe that's in the phase of life that you're in now. You have to be able to show up as your full self. I can go back and think about a friend in my life where I would always open up and talk about the stuff that was going on in my life and be really real about my struggles. But when it came time for them to kind of share back, they weren't ever getting real or vulnerable with what was going on in their life. And so it was almost this like lopsided connection, if you will, where I was being really vulnerable, maybe even too vulnerable sometimes, I don't know, but then never being met with that same vulnerability. And so friendship can't go deeper when there's not willingness of depth there. You should be able to show up as your full self. And if that's something that you're struggling with, to show up as your full self, sometimes it may not even be the other person. Maybe that's an opportunity for growth on your part to ask yourself, why do I have trouble opening up or sharing or whatever? Or why am I not able to be vulnerable here? And use it as a challenge for yourself to grow in that moment, to grow in your own capacity for sharing and connecting with another human. That can go both ways. Number 5, your growth doesn't threaten them, it inspires them. Boom. This one is a mic drop for me because I have experienced this so many times in all different types of friendship. But typically, if your growth threatens or rubs another person the wrong way, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. I get so fired up about this one because I can pinpoint and go back to different times in my life when this really affected friendship and relationships that I had, and to the point where like I had to remove myself from those friendships. But really it was because of the own insecurity of the other person that was ultimately rooted in jealousy. If somebody cannot be happy for you, if someone cannot be inspired by your growth and what you do and use it as fuel for their own journey, major red flag. Do not have people in your circle that have that spirit in them, because it will eat away and give you an energetic imprint that you do not want. So the people in your life should be so inspired by you. And right now, you guys, I am the most inspired by my friend circle. I have close friends that are starting podcasts, that are building new businesses, that have dreams of taking over a certain brand someday, have dreams of opening their own Pilates studios, have dreams of running a functional medicine clinic, that are wanting to create new brands and lines to help people and all these things. These are the people that I have in my life right now. Oh my gosh, I love you guys. But these are the people that I have in my life right now, and they are so inspiring to me, and I'm inspired by them. It gets my creativity and even my own zest for my business and my life and everything. It inspires me to go pour back creatively into mine. And we support one another's journeys. We're excited to talk about the growth that is happening with us. We're excited to share ideas or help one another's growth or share each other's success and all of that. Those are the people that you should have in your life that create the healthy and aligned friendship that you want. So, in closing, I want to give you a few reflection questions to take from today's episode and kind of think through your circle of influence and your circle of people. And this does not mean you need to go and cut everyone out of your life immediately, or maybe it does if that's what you really feel like is necessary. Or maybe it means that you can identify somebody that you're like, ooh, I really need to pull this person or friendship deeper into my life because I feel so encouraged and inspired and everything when I'm around them, etc. So some reflection questions. Write these down in your journal, in your notebook, or your notes folder on your phone. Think about them. Take a walk, sit in your sauna, go next time you get a massage or a facial or something, like book something for you to have this kind of reflection time and kind of audit who's in your life. I'm going to give you a few questions to do that. Number 1, who do I feel most myself around? Number 2, which friendships feel one-sided or energetically off? Number 3, who challenges me to be better in a healthy way? And number 4, do I feel expanded or contracted after my time with this person? Know that the more you honor who you are becoming and growing and being, the more aligned relationships you will call in. I made that my mission in this last year to honor the woman that I knew I was being pulled and called to be, and the people that have flooded into my life and just literally been plopped into my path have been so aligned for me in this season of life. So in closing today, remember that you are allowed to choose your circle with intention. Your healing, your growth, your evolution, and your inner peace are worth protecting. The right people in your life will never require or ask you to shrink. Today, this episode, this time that you've spent the last 45, 50 minutes, this is your permission to choose connections that feel like nourishment, that are soil for your growth. You deserve to be surrounded by people who hold space for your growth, who celebrate your becoming, who see you clearly, and love you so deeply without condition. The right people won't ask you to shrink. They'll make you feel more like you, because your circle isn't just your support system. It's the energetic container for the life that you are building. I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Behind the Cusp. If you love this episode, I'd so appreciate it if you'd rate, review, or share it with someone else who's also on their path of self-growth. These all go such a long way in supporting the show. Be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find me over on Instagram @StyleCusp and follow the show Behind the Cusp. And as always, keep tuning inward. True transformation begins from the inside out.